It was a quiet April morning, and the sweet smell of flowers drifted through the open window. It should have been a happy day. It was my 23rd birthday, but instead of waking up to cake or surprises, I was woken by the soft cries of my daughter, Gloria. Gloria was just over a year old, still so small and tender. She had been sleeping beside me in bed, and the moment she started fussing, I gently picked her up and held her close. Her little body was warm against mine, and her soft baby scent filled my nose. I kissed the top of her head and whispered, "Good morning, Gloria." Her tiny fingers clutched at my shirt, and for a moment, the world faded away. Nothing else mattered except her. She looked like me, with soft black hair, but those gentle brown eyes were just like her father's. Every time I looked into them, a strange feeling twisted in my chest. It was painful, remembering him, but also comforting, because even though he was gone, he had given me her. He ran away the moment I told him I was pregnant, changed his phone number, deleted his social media, just vanished. I still remember the way he froze when I said the words. Then he muttered something about needing time and walked out the door. That was the last I saw of him. At that time, I was just a 20-year-old girl, finishing my last year of high school. I had dreams of studying literature, of writing novels. My weekends were filled with movie nights and long chats with friends. I was just an ordinary girl with hopes like anyone else, until everything changed with 2 pink lines. My parents didn't take the news well. My mother's words cut deep, and she never let me forget it. "You've brought shame to this family," she said again and again, her voice cold like winter wind. My younger sister Barbara was 18 then, the family's golden child, captain of the cheer team, straight A student, the one everyone praised. She didn't say much when she found out, but I noticed the look in her eyes, relieved that it wasn't her, and maybe a little sorry it was me. The last 3 years had been a struggle. I worked part-time at a retail store at night and went to community college during the day. I barely slept. Somehow, I earned a childcare certificate. My mother, despite her sharp tongue, helped look after Gloria when I couldn't, but her help always came with criticism. "This happened because you were careless," she'd say while feeding Gloria. "You've made life harder for everyone," she'd mutter as she did the laundry. "If only you were more like Barbara," she would sigh after tucking Gloria in. I often cried quietly in my room while holding Gloria. Her little breath soothed me, even as I wondered how we'd ever get out of this mess. I dreamed of a better life for her, but freedom and stability always seemed so far away. Then, on my 23rd birthday, something happened that changed everything. I had just fed Gloria when I heard my mother calling from downstairs, "Jessie, come for breakfast," but something in her voice sounded different, nervous, maybe. When I walked into the living room, I found both my parents sitting there with serious expressions. There were papers spread out on the coffee table. I sat down, holding Gloria in my lap. "We need to talk," my mother said quietly. Her hands were shaking. "It's about Barbara," she added. My heart stopped. I thought back to the night before, Barbara crying behind her door, voices rising, pacing footsteps. I braced myself. "Barbara is pregnant," she said. I was stunned. My sister, the perfect one, was now going through what I had once faced, but there was a twist. "It's Daniel's child," my mother added, "Daniel Baker." I remembered Daniel. He came from a wealthy family and had been dating Barbara since high school. He was tall and handsome, and always so confident. I had seen them together at school events. They looked like a couple out of a magazine. But what struck me wasn't just the news, it was how my mother's voice changed. There was pride in it, as if Barbara's pregnancy was something to celebrate. I couldn't help the sharp pain in my chest. When I got pregnant, they were ashamed, but Barbara's pregnancy, it was welcomed, because Daniel came from money, because Barbara was having a boy. Then my father spoke. "We've made a decision," he said, clearing his throat. "Barbara and the baby will live here. Daniel will move in too." I sat there, stunned. Our house was small, only 4 rooms. Where would we all fit? And then came the blow. "So, Jessie," he continued, "you and Gloria will need to move out." It felt like the floor disappeared under me. "What?" I whispered. My father's face was stone cold. My mother looked pleased, almost glowing. "A grandson," she said. "He'll carry on the family name. He needs a good home." And there it was. Gloria and I didn't matter. We were never seen the same way, not because of what I did, but because of who I wasn't. I wasn't connected to money. I had a daughter, not a son. I held Gloria close. She looked up at me, her big eyes wide and innocent. She didn't know what was happening, but she could feel my fear. "How soon do we have to go?" I asked. "Today," my father said. Daniel was moving in tomorrow. They wanted us gone before he arrived. My hands shook as I started packing. Tears ran down my face, but I kept going. Gloria needed me. I couldn't fall apart. From Barbara's room, I heard soft crying. Was she sad? Guilty? I didn't know. I didn't have time to figure it out. Instead, I called the only person I could trust, my Aunt Martha. When she picked up, her voice was angry and full of love. "Come stay with me," she said right away. "There's always space for you and Gloria." She said she'd be there in 42 minutes. She told me to pack what I needed. We'd come back for the rest later. That evening, as I carried Gloria to her car, my parents stood at the door, silent. My mother looked like she wanted to say something, but she didn't. My father looked away. "Goodbye," I said. They didn't answer. In the back seat, Gloria clutched a stuffed bunny Aunt Martha had given her, a new friend for a new beginning, she'd said. As we drove off, I pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking. I opened my social media and started typing. For years, I had held everything in, but not anymore. Today, I was kicked out of my family's house to make room for my sister's boyfriend and unborn son. I have a 1-year-old daughter. I've always been treated like a disgrace. And just like that, I shared my truth. It was scary, but also freeing. For the first time, I felt like I was taking my life back. And this was just the beginning. I'll never forget that moment. I was made to feel like I had to apologize just for being alive. Saying my truth out loud felt both freeing and scary. It was like closing one painful chapter and stepping into a new one, not knowing what would come next. As we drove away from the only home I'd ever known, I was filled with fear, but I was also comforted by the one person who had stayed by my side, my aunt, who truly cared. Everything changed when my sister Barbara told our family she was pregnant. The father of the baby came from a well-known, wealthy family, and suddenly that seemed to matter more than anything else. Our parents decided they needed to make space for the future heir, and just like that, they told Gloria and me to leave. No warning, no compassion. They didn't care that I had a baby or that we had nowhere else to go. All they cared about was status and tradition. What hurt most was that Barbara wasn't married, and because her baby was a girl, they didn't even see her as important. It was a harsh reminder of the discrimination that still lives in our world. I had always hoped that my family would love us no matter what, but that day, they made it clear, Gloria and I didn't matter to them. But getting kicked out led to something unexpected, a new beginning. Gloria and I started to learn what real family means. It's not always about blood. Sometimes, it's about who shows up, who listens, and who stands by you when life gets hard. I shared our story online, hoping to release some of the pain I'd been carrying. I was nervous, worried about what people would say, but the support came quickly. People from all over shared kind words, and it felt like we weren't so alone anymore. My Aunt Martha was the first to reach out. She welcomed us into her home like we were coming home from a long journey. When we arrived, the sky was turning orange and pink with the sunset. She wrapped us in a hug that made me feel safe for the first time in a long while. Her house was warm, with the smell of dinner filling the air, and a small room already set up for Gloria, with a little crib and soft blankets. That night, after Gloria fell asleep, my aunt and I talked for hours. We talked about everything, our family's old-fashioned views, what Barbara was going through, and the sadness I had buried deep inside. My aunt didn't make excuses for my parents. She shook her head and said, "This isn't right, Jessie, it never was." Her words helped me see things clearly. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't wrong to feel hurt. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. My post had gone viral. People were reaching out with stories, with kindness, with hope. Some were strangers, some were other young moms who had gone through the same thing. My aunt looked at me and said, "You did the right thing." Sometimes, telling the truth is the first step to real change. Later that day, something unexpected happened. My grandfather called. He didn't say much at first. His voice was quiet, but there was a weight to it, like he was holding back a storm of emotions. When he finally spoke, he said he was ashamed. He admitted that he had helped my parents buy their house and had stayed silent too long. The next day, my grandparents came to visit us. When my grandfather saw Gloria, he walked over slowly and knelt down beside her. She hesitated at first, but then she reached for the stuffed toy he offered. And he smiled, holding her in his arms. He said, "If your parents can't accept you, then everything I own will go to you and Martha." His words didn't feel like revenge, they felt like justice. My grandmother agreed, tears in her eyes. "Maybe we've spoiled them too much," she whispered. My aunt was stunned. She clutched my hand and nodded, barely able to speak. But not everyone was happy. My parents started calling, again and again. At first, I ignored them, but one day, I picked up. "Jessie," my mom said, her voice shaky, "this is a big misunderstanding, we're family." I could tell she was panicking. She probably realized they were about to lose everything. "You just want the inheritance," I said. There was a pause. Then she asked, "Why would you say that?" "Because it's true," I said calmly. "You threw us out without a second thought." Soon after, I got a message from my other sister, Melissa. She wrote, "I didn't know, they told me you wanted to leave." Her words felt hollow. I replied, "Your son isn't to blame, but neither were we, and you stayed quiet." She never wrote back. Later that day, as I sat on the couch with Gloria in my lap, she touched my cheek and looked at me with those big eyes. That tiny gesture made all the pain feel lighter. She was my reason to keep going. A week later, another surprise came. Barbara left our parents' house. She moved in with Daniel and his family. A neighbor called us with the news, and I didn't know what to think. Barbara called me that evening. "I can't do it anymore," she said. "Daniel's parents accept me and the baby. They don't care if it's a girl. That's how it should be." Her words made me emotional, but I still had questions. "Why now?" I asked. "I should have stood up for you," she admitted, crying. "I've been thinking about it every day." A month later, my grandparents kept their promise. They changed their will. My parents were removed, and everything was passed to Aunt Martha and me. When my father found out, he called in rage. "You're betraying us," he yelled. But I stayed calm. "You betrayed us first," I said. Then he hung up. After that, I focused on building a new life. I got a job as a preschool teacher. Gloria went to daycare at my aunt's center. It was hard, but for the first time in a long time, I felt proud. Every morning, the kids would shout, "Good morning, Miss Jessie." Gloria would smile, sometimes calling me Mom, sometimes Teacher. I didn't mind. She was happy, and that's what mattered. My co-workers were kind. Some had seen my post and said it gave them hope. I even started talking to other young moms, giving advice and encouragement. If my story could help someone else feel less alone, it was worth it. At home, Gloria bloomed. She loved playing in the garden. I would sit and watch her, whispering, "Your smile is my greatest treasure." Barbara and I talked now and then. She was trying, and I could see that. I hadn't fully forgiven her, but I respected her effort. One day, I'll tell Gloria everything, not to burden her, but to remind her, she is valuable, she is irreplaceable. We're walking a new path now. It's not perfect, and it's not easy, but it's filled with real love, and that makes all the difference.